Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Puranamunina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshini Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvamanusantatami Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangha Padakramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tatkatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na vidussura suragana Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. Let's chant verses chapter 6 verses number let's chant verses number, last four verses, 44, 45, 46 and 47 of the 6th chapter. Number 44. Purvabhyasena te naiva hriyate hyavashopi saha Jigyasurapi yogasya Shabd brahmati vartate prayatnadyatamaanastu yogi samshuddha kilbishaha aneka janma samsiddhaha tato yati param gatim tapasvibhyo dhiko yogi jnanibhyopi matodhikaha karmabhyascha yogi tasmat yogi bhavarjuna yoginamapi sarvesham madgatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yuktamo mataha. Then we can just do the end of this chapter 6. Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Dhyana Yogo Nama Shashtodhyayaha. So today we'll finish the 6th chapter. And we were just talking with a couple of students. It's funny that we are studying the chapter on meditation. We have not done any meditation. So I think what I'm going to do, we are thinking of doing is, it'll be fun to, pardon me, it'll be fun to revise the 6th chapter from next week and maybe use 2 or 3 classes to do so. And in each of the classes, we will do meditation so that at least half the class we will put into practice what we are studying in that sense. So I think that's the plan that we have. Really is a great, very, very good summation of a lot of the stuff that has already gone on. So anyway, we'll do that. So the topic that we are studying as part of the Nididhyasanam is a sense of insecurity on the part of Arjuna, almost pessimism, because the job of Krishna was to bring him up and say, hey, don't be despondent. And despondence is, of course, a very extreme situation in our life. You know, generally speaking, we have ups and downs, but we are able to overcome it and everything goes on well. But once in a while, if the negative emotions overcome us, we get into depression. And it is very difficult to to come out of it. These days I understand that the Americans are, this is absolutely a crazy country. Whenever there is a need, there is a chance to fill it in some way. Now there is a lot of medication for depression. I mean, in India, if somebody is depressed, we'll say, hey, get out of it, it's okay. Or if you're depressed, you stay home, we'll just cook for you, don't worry about it. You don't have to do any job. But in this country, depression means chance to make money. And so now the drugs are coming out that are really, which is good in a way, actually, it's nice. Anyway, here, Arjuna, as you know, the whole setup of the Gita is that Arjuna was very depressed. And one of the symptoms of depression is that you do not do normal things even. Because if you have some problems in life that you are able to overcome, you do at least normal things, you know, getting food for your children and doing this and going to the job, and you're not happy but you keep doing it. But if you're depressed, this is a special case. That means that you cannot do anything normally even. So the setup of the Gita is where Arjuna is depressed. He refuses to fight. He says, I'm not going to do this. So everybody says, what? You're kidding. You have been studying as the top guy for the Pandavas and now you are not, what's happening to you? So then he says that you know all that, we have done all of that. And those for the last 5 or 6 chapters, Krishna has been telling him, listen, you don't understand. If you are depressed, that's because you have not understood the beauty of the Atma. If you have to understand what a lovely situation you have, all of those kinds of things, and he was being taught. And Arjuna is getting enthused and says, yeah, that's good. But then, as it happens to most of us, there is a gap between the teaching and our life. As long as you are studying the teaching, it looks very good and looks very, very appealing. But you look at the conduct of your own life and you say, I don't quite get it. I'm not what I'm supposed to be. And so you create a doubt within yourself whether I can actually do this or not. this topic that we are studying addresses that situation. Where, as you know, starting with verse number 37, Arjuna Uvacha, he says, Ayatihi Shraddhayo Peto Yogaschilita Manasaha Aprapya Yoga Samsiddhim Kam Gatim Krishna Gacchati. Aprapya Yoga Samsiddhim. So Krishna has been saying, listen, if you do this and you do Shravanam, you do Mananam, you do Nididhyasanam, and you do meditation, you are going to do Yoga Samsiddhi. Means that you are able to see exactly who you are, not you thought you were, but who you really are. And everything will be very well. And Arjuna takes a look at himself and he says, I am not there at point yet. And I am not sure that in this life I can get there. This is true for many of us. We all feel that, I think I'm doing the right thing, but the very picture of being Jivan Mukta and so on and so forth, I am not sure that I can do this in life. If that is the case, what is my future? Where do I go from here? Whenever I'm born again, where will I be born? What will happen to me? This is the tenor of his questions. So he says, Aprapya Yoga Samsiddhim Kam Gatim Krishna Gacchati. So the answers are all, as you know, we have already been doing it for a couple of weeks or so. Krishna is telling him, listen. He assures him that if you are studying so really speaking, studying means this is the study of Parameshwara. This is the real God-seeking. So God-seeking doesn't mean that you go to pilgrimages and so on. That's all part of it. But God-seeking means understanding the truth about what's going on in the whole life. Who am I? What is my future? Is someone in charge of the whole Jagat? Is there order? All of those kinds of things. And this is what it really means. As you know very well, Swami Dayananda also used to say this so well, that jnanam, knowledge, is the best bhakti. Best bhakti. Why should we say that? Because knowledge of the details ensures that your bhakti is real and enduring. I go back to the example that I give many times. This is really remarkable. Even when I was growing up and so on, in fact, I remember the time when Einstein died. And already my father and family had told me that Einstein was a great scientist. He has just revolutionized the whole vision of it. Even in my childhood, I knew that. And so I had Shraddha that he is a great person. So I was a bhakta of Einstein. But I never knew the truth about what he did. They said, my father used to say he's done this relativity and he's completely changed the view of things and so on and so forth. So I says, wow, that's wonderful, that's wonderful. And Swami Dayananda, he had given this example that which I have given you as well, that suppose there is these graduation convocations, and supposing Einstein was being invited to one of these graduation convocations to give a speech to the graduates. And so there is a valedictory person who's usually chosen from the class to introduce this great scientist. So this valedictory person is an undergraduate from, let's say, Berkeley or Stanford or something. And so what they do is they read a book and says, "Now it is my privilege to announce Mr. Einstein. Mr. Einstein, Dr. Einstein did the theory of relativity, and he was given one Nobel Prize." And he's reading. And they're very proud, but they don't understand what Einstein has done. As compared to that, supposing there is another Nobel Prize winner who has great respect and understanding of the theory of relativity. When they introduce Einstein, that bhakti will be infused with knowledge. So similarly here also, compared to us, there are a lot of bhaktas of Ishvara who are beautiful, wonderful people, but they may not understand how. And the problem with not understanding Ishvara's glory is that you are dependent upon your situation in life. Swami Maheshanji gives this example. He says there was a bhakta of mine, not here, I think I read it someplace else. So Maheshanji says that there was a great bhakta, and he used to come to the talks, but not a very regular student. He was just a businessman who was just enamored with the possibility. And he was a great bhakta of Ishvara. Oh my God, Ishvara, you've been so kind to me. And he used to have his own vigraha in his own home, and used to do puja and so on. Then a couple of tragedies happened to him in his life. So one time he was deeply disturbed. The second time, Swamiji says, I was passing by, all the murtis were thrown out of the home. So we said, what happened? What did you do? He says, I don't believe in Ishvara anymore. I've had so many problems in my life. If he was there, why would he allow for something like this? So his bhakti was gone. So also here also, the bhakti means it has to be infused with knowledge. Otherwise, it is very vulnerable. It can just be thrown away. So now Arjuna says, listen, I get it, but I don't completely get it because my life is not yet as happy as it should be. What happens to me when I die without having realized the exact situation? What is my future going to be? So Krishna says, listen, your quest for the knowledge of Ishvara, he says, if you have started the search for me in a very sincere way, means that not just make believe, but if you really you are studying. So this is what. I remember when I met Swami Dayanandji, what impressed me very much was that I was also searching for answers. So this is what is called mumukshu. Mumukshu means moktumichu, means that you want to have some freedom in life. But what impressed me about Swami Dayanandji was his convincing me that this can be studied in a very structured manner. So this is what is called a mumukshu turning into a jigyasu. Jigyasu means jnatum ichu, one who desires to know, not who just freedom, 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 but how. And it was to such a point that I had made a decision that I'm going to give up my job and study this. I said, I'm not going to find another situation like this. And that created a huge problem for me because my wife was not a jigyasu. She was not and I had to convince her. And she was saying, why are you going to live away for 2 years? How? Why? So I said, there's something special going on in here. And Swamiji finally convinced her. As you know, the story is that I went for an interview and Swamiji said, well, do you have enough money? Can you get by a couple of years without money? And are your children, how old are they? And all that. So then Swamiji said, this is a very special situation. If somebody is really interested in learning, you should let him do that. So my wife agreed. Even though my parents came all the way to dissuade her. She says, don't give in to your husband. He's crazy. Because there have been some people in our family who also gave up the whole thing. My father's older brother did that. He went to Radhaswami and he just gave up the whole thing. It was a mess. So my father said, oh my God, another one of those people. So they actually came, I'm telling you, talk to Pami, they had special sessions with her. He says, be strong. Be strong. Do not just do this. She says, what do you mean? He wants to go. What am I supposed to do? Anyway, all of that is just on the side. But what it means is Krishna is saying, really saying the same thing, that if you become serious in understanding the laws of my laws, I am telling you, there is no going back. I will protect you. Some accident happens and you happen to lose your life or something, nothing. I'll make sure that this is my creation. You think I'm crazy? That this is the best thing that can happen to you? And if something, because of your previous karmas or something, you got interrupted, I'm going to forget about it? So this is what he's explaining. We can go into the details, but the essence of his teaching is that please do not lose confidence. Just keep studying. It's not easy, nor it takes a lot of time to do it, a lot of energy, a lot of effort. But if you keep working on this, you will get there. So that's what he's saying. So we've already gone through several ones of this. In 44 he says, Swami Paramarthananda made a very interesting observation in his commentary on this. He said, there are, really speaking, two things required for someone to seriously study. One is the availability of this knowledge. This is number one. The second one is your ability to grasp it. These are the two things required. And as you know very well, India is called a Punya Bhumi. Punya Bhumi means a place where good things happen to you. And one might say good things don't happen to most people because it's a dirty place, overcrowded, and there is so much corruption. And what do you mean it's a Punya Bhumi? This is not a Punya, this is the Punya Bhumi. This is a very nice place. Even though after we have a crazy president, he'll be gone after 4 or 5 years. It'll be a nice place again. This is nice. No. Punya Bhumi. You know, it's interesting. Swami Dayanand gave this example. It was very interesting. So he says, there was a Pandit in New Delhi, kind of like a teacher, and he was teaching Bhagavad Gita. And he was told that if you keep teaching Bhagavad Gita, then your place in heaven will be secure. It will be secure. And you'll be in heaven. So, so the fellow died, and sure enough, it's just a story. So he woke up and he said, wow, my goodness, Indra was right that he's welcomed me to the heavens. I've been teaching Bhagavad Gita. I've earned it. So he's got a nice place. He's got a nice palace and some domestic help and a beautiful car, helicopter, all of those kinds of things. He was just having fun. Then he went for a walk. And he found that the next door, the palace was 3 times the size. And the helicopters were much better. The cars were absolutely the greatest. There were more domestic servants. And he said, wow, this fellow, I don't know what he did to deserve this. So he looked around, and pretty soon this guy was sitting in the automobile. He was passing by. He saw him as this dirty guy from New Delhi who used to drive this, you know, this, they have this, you know, not the small 3-wheeler. It's the big 3-wheeler that can take about 12 people, and huge engine and so on. And he was that driver of that guy, driver of that. So now he says, what? How did he come here? He's got a bigger place. He went to make an appointment with Indra. He says, Indra, I am totally confused. I got a nice place, I understand it. But what is this guy going? He used to drink all the time. And he used to have 5 or 6 women in his house all the time. He never really paid any attention to his children or anything. He did everything wrong, and he got a better place than us. How? So Indra says, you know what, I was expecting you. He says, I know. He says, you know, here are my marching orders from Ishvara. Here are the marching orders. Ishvara says, however people you convert into a Shraddha towards Ishvara, you'll be given so many points. If you convert 2 or 3 people, then you'll be given certain points. If you convince 50 people, then you'll be at a higher class. He says, listen, I don't want to criticize you, but you were somewhat of a boring teacher as a Gita. You didn't really, there were some people who used to come to your classes, they were already very old, and they had nowhere else to go. And so they used to come to you, and you did a good job. I admit that. So you were given this palace. He says, this guy, every time he would take 12 people in a place that should have taken only 6, but he had 12 people in there. And every time he drives through the traffic, people at the end of that says, there must be Ishvara to save us. This fellow could not save us, but there is Ishvara. I never believed in it, but this is exactly what happens. I tell you, when you go to the crazy traffic in India, if you come back alive, you say, oh my God, how did that happen? So he says, I counted it, he has converted 600 people. So Indra says, what am I supposed to do? I'm just following Ishvara's laws. So you are given a smaller one. I actually get you a good place. This is a joke that Swami Dayanand ji told us. I remember one time we had arranged for, I had arranged for his talks at the Fremont Temple. a long time ago, in the mid-80s. And so after the talks, I was driving him back to our house in Los Altos with Swamiji. And my whole family was with me. And Swamiji was sitting next to me, and he was telling me this joke. Do you know, I laughed so hard that I almost lost control of my car. I still remember this. And it was only he can tell this joke is a known way. India is a Punya Bhumi. You know why? There are so many problems, and that you feel there must be someone, there must be something better than this. There has to be some Ishvara who is some. A lot of people go to India and they say, I don't know how this country functions. There are no laws, nobody obeys laws, but it just somehow happens. There must be Ishvara. So this is exactly what happens. So Swami Paramarthananda said, two things need to happen for someone to gain this knowledge. The place must be there where this knowledge is available. And jokes aside, there is no other place other than India where this is meticulously maintained. People, even the villagers, they have a Shraddha towards Ishvara like you won't believe. Everyone is religious. And they don't mind about all these problems and so on and so forth, but they have a certain Shraddha towards Ishvara. And of course the Vedic knowledge, the interest to learn. And if you do, then Swami Paramarthananda says, Krishna, in his commentary he's saying this, Krishna says, listen Arjuna, if you have already started on this path, I will make sure both of these conditions are fulfilled. The place that you are born will be where this teaching is available, as we studied last week, remember? So, in number 41 he says, Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha shuchinam srimatam gehe yoga bhrashto abhijayate. He says, Shuchinam srimatam. So srimatam means, remember we went over this, a family that is not struggling for survival. If you don't have Shri meaning a good set of money and family and health also is Shri, then you cannot study. So he says, I'll make sure that you will be, Gehe means in the house of a Srimatam, and Shuchinam. Shuchinam means that they have good values. They are not cheats. They are ethical. They are good people. They are well-to-do. Or Krishna says, if you have progressed to even a better degree than that, then verse number 42 comes in. Athava. So he says that, or deserve, or depending on you how much you deserve, yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam. He says you could be qualified to be born into even a better family. What do we mean by a better family? In the previous one, it was Shuchinam Srimatam. But here, this is a family of learned people. Yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam. Learned people who are not just ordinary people living in a nice life with good bhavas. All of that is fine. These are people who are in who are already studying. This is what I see this sometimes, where you find people who are born where the Sanskrit is already available from the very beginning, and the introduction to Vedanta is there. Imagine how much of an advantage those people will have. So Krishna says, listen, I'll take care of you, okay? You just keep studying. I'll make sure that whatever you deserve, that situation is given to you. So that was number 42. And in 43, let's see. So in 43 he says basically that you will gain continuous progress with nothing lost. And it might take you a little while to, so this is the problem with getting born, is that you waste a lot of time, 9 months in the womb of your mother, then you learn to walk, so you all of that you have to do. You have to do all of that. You lose a lot of time. But when you are growing up, you will catch this very quickly. This is why you find these young kids, they are so bright. Once you see something, once you say something, they will grasp it right away. So he says that will happen to you. You don't have to go all over again. You'll be taken care of. Then now let's finish this 44, 45, 40, it's up to now was the revision. Let's look at the new one. So, in number 44 he says, Purva abhyasena tena eva hriyate hi vashopi saha jigyasuhu api yogasya shabda brahmadi vartate. So, I was reading Swami Maheshananji's commentary on this. I want to bring some of those. Yeah, this is a very interesting point. Okay, he says that really speaking, your life is at any one time the sum total of your past. In other words, your vasanas, your samskaras determine where you are today. Even the fact that we are human beings means we have gone through a lot of lives and we have achieved something very beautiful, which is a human life, which is the animals cannot do. So that with that. Then within the human life itself, depending upon whose family you were born in, what influences you get, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, which makes you what you are today. So this is what is called Purva Abhyasa. So the Purva Samskara and so on and so forth. Out of that, the recent samskaras are more important. Much more important. All samskaras are important, but the recent ones have much more of an impression on you. Swami Maheshananji gives this beautiful example. He says, you know what? Supposing you are 50 years old, and even though you know English, he was talking about life in India. He says you are from Rajasthan, you're a Marwadi, and you know a little bit of English, but most of your life you have been talking in Marwadi. Okay? Especially counting. which I'll come to that in a minute. So you're speaking Marwari. At the age of 50, you were sent to England as part of your job. Life you were only using Marwari. For the last 5 or 6 years you were in England and you were forced to speak in English, count in English, transact in English, because that was your thing. Then you come back. And this is exactly what has happened to me. I mean, when I came to this country, my Hindi was really pretty good. I could talk. This is exactly, I'll tell you what, anyway, let me finish this example, then I'll tell you. So he says, you come back from England. Now chances are, you would be talking more in English than in Marwari. And effortlessly you will come to it. In fact, you almost will be, there's a word here that he uses. He says, Purva abhyasena tena eva hriyate hi avashopi saha. Avashopi saha means that without any prompting, you will do what you learnt recently. This is what happened to me. So when I went to Indore recently to do the Bhumi Puja for this new school that I talked to you about, and I was sitting there, and then I suddenly realized that I'm supposed to talk. They are requesting 2 or 3 people to talk, and I was the representative for the Kishores, and they wanted me to say something. So, and I kind of knew that I was supposed to be talking. What I didn't realize was that the audience is Hindi speaking, the speakers are all Hindi speaking, and I'm expected to speak in Hindi. I am telling you, I don't get into panic that often, but I did get into panic. I said, oh my God. I tell you, because, you know why? Because even though I was born in Hindi, I mean, in a Hindi-speaking family, but now for the last few years, I'm much more conversant with English. I really did not do a good job. If it's been recorded, I just use namaskar. I just simply said use some simple words. The deep words that I wanted to use would not come to me. I was totally dissatisfied with my performance. But I was unprepared. Even though my background, I'm a Hindi-speaking person. With my wife and I, we also speak in Hindi every day. But this is kind of like bazaari Hindi, Kya haal hai, theek hai, sab kuch, that's it. But the thoughts that required some depth, it all come in English. This is what Krishna is saying. Krishna is saying, listen. This is an important point to see. We all have a huge amount of background in our lives. We have taken many lives. And even if you take this life, we have had a non-Vedantic background, where we just were simple people transacting on a day-to-day basis, so on and so forth. In the last few years, we have been exposed to something very beautiful, which is the higher idea. So Krishna says, let me tell you something. The last few years that you have been using to study Vedanta will be much more important for you in your next life. Using this example, Swami Maheshwaranji's example. And he says that it's not as though you would want to, you would naturally do it, just like you would naturally count in English now, not in Hindi. You will naturally give a speech in English. You will have a hard time giving it in the old one. This is the meaning of, he says, purva abhyasena tena eva hriyate hi avashopi saha. Even though you want to speak in Hindi, but you can't. Cannot. Beautiful example. Then the second line of the verse number 44 is also very important. He says, Jigyasuhu api yogasya shabda brahmadi vartate. So there are two good words to be used. One is called Jigyasu and the other one is Shabda Brahma. Shabda Brahma. So Shabda Brahma means the karma kanda of Vedas. The ritualistic part of Vedas, chanting, doing pujas, visiting temples, karma-oriented things. Jigyasu is, as I remember, I was telling you when I met Swami Dayanandji, I became a Jigyasu because he convinced me that there is some depth in it here. And he talked to me and he says, you know, you have a good background, you are an engineer, you have studied, you are a master's degree. Do you know there is so much depth in Vedanta? You should get into it. It will be worth your while. He convinced me. That's how I became a Jigyasu. See, the same word is used here. Jigyasu means Gyatumichu, one who wants to know. Not one who wants to do, but one who wants to know. He says that the one who wants to know eventually will cross the stage of karma kanda. That means that is the stage you should be at. Karma is good to a point for preparation, but you cannot keep on doing it on your life. There needs to be something better, which is what is the significance of karma? What are the limitations of karma? All of that has to be studied. So that's what he's saying. So through his explanation, Krishna is saying, listen, I will evaluate you where you are and give you a situation which is appropriate for where you want to grow. So do not worry about that. Leave that up to me. Don't worry what will happen to me if I don't do this in this life, or lives come and lives go. But the long-term progress is what I am really interested in, and what you should be interested in, and I'll take care of it. This is what he's saying. Then in 45, verse number 45, he continues with this and says that prayatnadi ayatanam ayatamaanastu yogi samshuddhi kilbishaha aneka janma samsiddha tato yati param gatim. So he makes the point that even though in your stored karma, which is called sanchita karma, there is a lot of bad stuff and good stuff. Both are there. And both punya and papa propel you to do things that you don't want to do. This is what happens, especially the papa karma. Papa karma means when you do something stupid, which you shouldn't be doing. But you have no control over it because your mind is still, let's just do this. I think it'll be fun. And you said, no, that's not what I should be doing. He said, no. This is called papa karma. And by the way, all the acharyas say, it is not just the papa karma. You should also stay clear of punya karma. Why? Why should I stay punya karma should be very nice. All I want to do is to avoid the bad ones. No. What the punya karma does is to create in you a sense of desire in this life. You say, Others are having fun and they say that you must go to Hawaii. This is a great place to be. I want to go there. I remember this, talking of Hawaii. So I was working for IBM. And how old was I at that time? Maybe 32, 33 or something. And we had just bought a home in Los Gatos, and my wife and I were living there, and we were very happy. I got a nice job and so on. So one of our neighbors, so my wife was not working at that time, so she was taking care of the kids, and I was working for IBM, so I'll come home and she'll be talking to the neighbors and so on. So one day she said, you know, these, I forget their last name, but anyway, whatever it was, she was saying that, haven't you been to Hawaii yet? So she says, she asked me, he says, what is this Hawaii? He says, I don't know, it's some place, I don't know, I haven't had a chance to even think about it. So then the next year, Carol was her first name. Carol went to Hawaii again. She says, that is a heavenly place, you've got to go there. So my wife said, you know, we need to look into that. So I said, well, how much does it cost? And it was a lot of money. So I said, you know, I'm trying to build some capital to invest. I'd rather do that rather than to enjoy. For about 6-7 years, we never went to Hawaii. But I made some good investments. And those have really flowered well. Even by then, they had done well and so on and so forth. But the samskara for Hawaii was there. Once I had enough money and the kids were now grown up, then we went to Hawaii, and it really was a nice place. So I must say that we still like it a lot. But here's what happens. These kinds of things come from punya karma. That I must go to Hawaii. The best thing is you don't need to go to Hawaii, just study. Because when you are in Hawaii, you don't study. You don't study. You're walking around on the beach, enjoying it, and so on and so forth. I think I was telling you this story. Swamiji had, I don't know how many of you know this American woman called Kalyani. I think she has a new name now. I forget, she's a Swami. Anyway, so there were 4 American girls at that time, women, who went to study with Swamiji. I'm talking about 1977, 72. And one of them was Kalyani. She is from Hawaii. So when all these women came back, they invited Swamiji for talks. And Kalyani invited Swamiji for talks in Hawaii. And one time in the satsang Swamiji was describing, he says, you know, whenever people invite me for talks, generally speaking, I have enough people to listen to me, and it's been a very pleasant experience, except for Hawaii. So we said, Swamiji, what happened? He says, Kalyani had posted this, I have a great teacher from India who's coming in for Vedanta, you must come. And she passed out all of these brochures, and she tried very hard, she invited all the friends. And he says, I can't remember, but there were maybe 2 or 3 people sitting there. And I went specially for a talk. Usually there is at least 50, 60 people, and so on and so forth. And so then Kalyani was very embarrassed. So she called everybody up and said, you know, you said you were going to come, how come? They said, oh, yesterday was such a beautiful day at the beach. We thought about it, but you know, Swamiji said, I was a complete failure in Hawaii. I came back without anything at all. Punya karma means please avoid too much punya karma, because it will give you more desires. Until you have some problems in life, you do not investigate. So that's what he's saying. Swami Maheshananji made this point. He says, that there is a lot of karmas waiting to fructify, but I will make sure that your quest for understanding trounces all of them. Your punya karma will be gone, your papa karma will be gone, your recent samskaras will take over. That's what he said. Then the last verse, which is an important verse, not the very last, but the second to last, number 46. He gives a kind of a good, better, best analogy. So let's look at this verse in some detail. So he says, Tapatsvibhyaha adhikaha yogi. He says a yogi is better than a tapasvi. And I'll explain the words in a minute. I'm just giving you the word meaning. A yogi is better than a tapasvi. Jnanibhyaha api mataha adhikaha. A yogi is better than a jnani. Better than a tapasvi, it is better than a jnani. Karma bhihi cha adhikaha yogi. And a yogi is even better than a karma yoga, a karma. Tasmat yogi bhava Arjuna. Therefore, please try to become a yogi. That is the state that you want to really be. So this is a verse which can be interpreted in a very confusing way. Especially, for example, the fact that a yogi is better than a jnani. How can that be? So we need to understand that and understand what is being said here. And here, if you look at the various commentaries and so on, you get a sense of what this is. So let me give you the explanation of that. So here I'm going to follow some Maheshananji. So, first of all, the word yoga can be used in different ways. So, one is, they say, I'm following Swami Maheshananji's commentary on this, that people that are very punctual in doing their work, tapasvi, and very sincere in doing the work, and if they do the yoga prescribed in the Yoga Shastra, that's very beneficial, extremely beneficial. So for example, in the Manusmriti, so after Bhagavad Gita, which is considered to be the best amongst the Smriti. Smriti means one which is written by human beings, is called Smriti. And the best Smriti is Bhagavad Gita, considered in the annals of Vedanta. The second best is called Manusmriti. So the Manusmriti is the conduct of the human being in the entire life. So So Bhagavad Gita goes into whenever you have a special problem like a war going on. But Manusmriti goes into all aspects of life, not just severe problems. So Manusmriti is also highly respected in terms of, and we don't study it because what one of them is enough. That's enough for us to do. But you could do it. In Manusmriti it is written that suppose you have some special problems depending upon your papa karma. Papa karma means that you've done something stupid, that you shouldn't have done it, unethical, whatever it is, immoral, whatever it is. Even that can be helped by doing regular pranayama. Not only the hatha yoga, but also the more aspects of yoga, which includes breath control, pranayama. So Manusmriti says that even the papa karmas can be destroyed by pranayama. So this is one of the things, aspect of it. In a general sense, what it is written is that tapasvi. Tapasvi means one who is doing a lot of tapaha. Tapaha means a controlled life where you don't overeat, you eat whatever is necessary. Your time spent is meticulously spread amongst good things. You observe all the fasts that are necessary. You don't mind fasting. So that kind of a person who is called tapasvi. Like, for example, if you go to the, I know there were a couple of people from Rishikesh recently. If you go there from our ashram, and you wake up early in the morning at 5 o'clock, there are people taking a bath in the Ganga, in the cold water at 5 o'clock, as soon as the dawn occurs. And you say, how can these people do it? But they feel that doesn't matter. I am a tapasvi. Tapaha is my nature. So this is called tapasvi. So one who is highly disciplined and gives in to pain and suffering, doesn't make any difference. So here he says, a yogi is better than a tapasvi. Tapasvi is also should be well respected. So the first part is tapasvibhyaha adhikaha yogi. Yogi is better than. Now, what is a yogi, we'll see later. It's not done yet. I'm just giving you the steps to it. Jnani bhyo hopi matoho adhika. So here, jnani is not. This is why some of these words have to be interpreted by living people. If you say, oh, jnani means that yogi is better than a jnani. Jnani means one who has a pedantic introduction to Vedanta through. You just study this is what people say, I have studied, what have you done so far? I've done this many Upanishads, I've done this. I still remember this is a funny thing that I just recall. So I think I told you this before, that in 1981, when we were at Piercy, Swamiji had taken off for a month. And that was scheduled. He was going to India and some other places. So the rest of us were free to travel for this 1 month. Otherwise, there were classes every day and so on. So I talked to Swamiji, and Swamiji said, Swamiji, I want to take my family for visiting the pilgrimage spots in South India. I've never really done so. So he says, that's a great idea. You please tell me when you're going and I'll arrange for it. And also go to Rishikesh ashram. And I've never been to the Rishikesh ashram. 1981 was my first time. He says, I'll make arrangements for it. Then he said, by the way, my guru, Swami Taranandji, he lives in Haridwar. Make sure that you do pranams to him. So I said, fine. So we went around and so on and so forth. Then I met Swami Taranandji. And Swami Taranandji had not been in contact with Swami Dayanand for a while. Swami Dayanand studied with him for several years. He has really three gurus. One is Swami Chinmayanand, who was an inspirer. Swami Pranavananda, who really made things clear to him. And Swami Taranandji, that he studied under with great detail all of the Shastras for several years. So it's hard to tell who you think is a real guru because all three of them were influential. Anyway, so I remember my mother was with me and my wife was with me. My two kids were there and we went with a driver we parked the car in front of this small place where Swami Taranandji was living, and Swami Dayanand had made this house for him. And there were a couple of brahmacharis that used to live with him. I met him 2 or 3 times, and last time I met him was a couple of years before his Mahasamadhi. It was in late 2006 or something like that. Anyway, so we went to say hello to him. So the brahmachari went in. He said, some people have come to meet you. Would you like to meet with them? So I said, I am a student of Swami Dayanandji, and he has asked me to come and talk to him. So then he came out. And so I did my pranams, and he said, so what are you doing? So I said, Swamiji, I am studying Vedanta with Swami Dayanandji. So he says, oh, wonderful, wonderful. Where? So I told him in PRC. So he says, wonderful, what have you been studying? And then my chest became like this, and I said, wow. We started with Kena Upanishad. Then we studied Kathopanishad. Then we did, this is exactly what's called Jnani Bhyogi. That I thought, I have studied so much. Really, I felt very, very good that I've done this and I've studied Sanskrit and so on. So Swamiji was sitting. Swami Taranandji, I can never forget the whole episode. It's like, so he said, in Hindi, he said, अच्छा, तो अभी तो श्रवण हो रहा है. आपको मनन करना तो बाकी है अभी. So he says, so he really sort of, and so he says, now you're just getting introduced to the subject matter. There's a lot of thinking that you still have to do. And he said it in a very nice way, not in any, putting me down. But I felt somewhat small, I must say that. I said, wait a second. For past 2 years, I have been studying, really my 2 years with Swamiji. So I have 2 master's degrees. One is master's in computer science and one is a master's in business administration. And these 2 years that I studied with Swamiji were much more intensive, required much more effort, more study and so on compared to the others. And so I was kind of proud of myself. So I felt, why is he saying that? Now I understand. After all these years, I understand. And so really this is the essence of it, if you look at all of this. And in fact, I'll close the loop in a minute. Okay? And so Jnani Noho means that compared to people who have just studied the matter, they haven't internalized it yet. So this is number 2. Number 3, Karmi Bhyascha Adhiko Yogi. Temples, especially the ones who are very meticulous from South India, like the Livermore Temple. And by the way, there's a new one coming up. I just found out in near Saint Martin, which is there's a huge temple that's coming up, South Indian style temple. Anyway, that's separately from that. But if you go to the Livermore Temple, There are people who are so sincere in doing karmas, and they spend so much time there. And so the question is, if you walk in there and you say, who are you? How come you weren't there last week? So he said, I'm trying to study. Okay, so you're just some study and so on and so forth. So this is the karmi bhyaha, means people who are very sincere. Yogi is better than them. This is Krishna saying. So the question is, which yogi? What do you mean by yogi? So here, as the answer, yogi means, as Swami Taranandji also was saying, one who has united himself with Ishvara. And united with Ishvara means you have studied it, you have thought about it, you are putting your life consistent with it, and you see the presence of Ishvara at every moment of your life. In other words, you have arrived. That is what is meant by a yogi. Not just one who is just doing pranayama and so on and so forth. No. So therefore he ends it by saying, Tasmat Arjuna yogi bhava. Instead, do not give up until you become a yogi. And then in the next verse, which is the last one, so up to now, what Krishna was talking about was the means of study, the sadhana, the kind of person that the student should be, all those kinds of things. But the question is, for what purpose? Where am I going? What is the end point? So here, the word for the end point is gati, param gatim, verse number 45, the last two words of number 45. Aneka janma samsiddha tataha yati param gatim. So gati means, what is the end point? And number 47, which is the last verse of this chapter, explains what the gati is. He says, Yogi nam api sarvesham mat gatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yobam same yukta mato tamaha yukta tamo mataha. Tamo mataha. He says the gati is a jivatma becoming paramatma. So as long as your conclusion is that you are just jivatma, you are just a limited human being beset with your own peculiar personal problems, and Paramatma, Ishvara, defined as a person who is beyond limitations, beyond death, which is the ultimate limitation. beyond problems, beyond any. That is the definition of Paramatma. As long as your feeling is that I am just the Jivatma and I want to get to the Paramatma, you have not reached the end point. You are still in travel. You know, this is what happens when you're traveling and your kids will say, "Are we there yet?" You say, "Stop asking that. When we are there, we'll let you know. When the engine is shut off, don't keep on asking." What he means to say is, how long is it there before we get there? That's what the kid wants to know. So this is the situation. As long as your feeling, which is very natural, is that you are in transit, you haven't reached. Then when will I reach? You will reach when you realize that Ishvara, Parameshvara is not a final destination away from me, but in fact I am the very person that I was seeking. Parameshvara is me. You give up your sense of limitation. You give up the sense of a room space and you realize, oh my God, the sense of limitation of the walls was just a make-believe. I am the very space that I was seeking. This is called a yogi. One where the seeker and sought become one. So this is the end of the sense of seeking and the whole meditation. Yoginam api sarvesham matgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo mataha, who is never given up the fact that. So this is the thing. I think that the ultimate vision that one needs to have is that my sense of being a jiva, human being, is a false imposition on my vision as a Paramatma. In fact, me, the individual, is not there. It is really just Parameshvara. I'm mislabeling it. Just like saying that the room space is somehow some separate individual than the total space, it's mislabeling it. There's only one vastu, which is space. You can call it anything you want to. Room space, car space, briefcase space, anything. But it's only one space. But if you keep on, no, the room space is different, you have not arrived yet. So this is how the chapter ends, saying that really speaking, your entire set of practices, your karma practice, your yoga practice, your study practice, all of those should culminate in your own life as someone where you see that your idea of separateness from me is false. It's false. It's a mislabeling. I am there as your antaryami, whatever you are is given to you through me. I am the reality behind you. So this is what he's saying. Shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo mataha. And so this is the end of that. And then the whole chapter finishes. So this is an important chapter because, as you know, Gita is spread into three parts. So one is the Tvampada, one is Tatpada, and the third one is Asipada, Tattvamasi. So the first 6 chapters are Tvampada, where the jiva is being exemplified. What is the nature of the jiva? How to improve, how to get better, and so on. Then the next one will be 7 through 12 is to talk about Ishvara. And there, number 7 is talked about bhakti, the nature of bhakti. In fact, as you know very well, in the writing of the Bhagavad Gita, then the next idea of the next chapter is planted in the last verse of the previous chapter. So here, Shraddhavan bhajate yo mam. So bhajanam means bhakti. And so this is the seed which will sprout in chapter number 7 later on. We'll talk about that as to what we will do. But with that, the 6th chapter finishes, and also the section of the Bhagavad Gita where Tvampada is exhaustively talked about. So it doesn't mean that the Tvampada is only in the first 6 chapters, Ishvara only but the primary emphasis on the first 6 is the jiva. And so with that it ends. So I think what we will do, as I mentioned to you, in the next class, we will do a quick revision of the entire 6th chapter and accompany that with some meditation in 2 or 3 classes. So I think it will be a good way to revise everything. So with that, I'll say a prayer and invite any questions that you have. Om asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityor ma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Any questions that you have about today's class? Or tell us about your visit to Rishikesh. Come and just tell everybody. Come. No, you. I want you.
No.
She just, you must tell everybody.
I just spent a month at the ashram in Rishikesh. I haven't been there. The last time I was there was in 2011. And so it was nice to be back. And we studied the Bhagavad Gita with Swami Paramathananda. And then that was followed by Bhakti with Swami Tattvavidananda. And one thing that I'm still, and I feel like I will be digesting it for a long time, a lot of mananam and nidyasanam to do. But one thing that I recalled when you were talking about jnana and bhakti was Swami Tapavidananda saying that when one truly is a jnani, they naturally have bhakti. And when one is truly a bhakta or bhakti, then they naturally are a jnani as well.
True.
You can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really beautifully put. And yeah, it was just wonderful. It was wonderful to be there, and it was wonderful to have your comment about the morning. And the one thing that I really loved was at 4 a.m. all the bells start ringing. And, you know, your whole focus is for the entire day is on the teaching, and you live it and breathe it and study it and chant it. And yeah, it was very powerful. So I'm still acclimating to being back. I've only been back a few days, so.
Were there students in both the sessions that were the same like you, or they had to get a brand new set of people from Swami Paramatmananda over to Swami Tattvadananda?
Yeah, some people were there for both camps.
Okay.
Some people were there for all four. Swami Vidyatapananda did the first camp.
Oh, when was that?
That was the beginning, let's see, the end of February. He was
there as late as that? Oh, I
Mhm.
didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, and then Swami Tattvavidananda did the
Second one.
last two.
Last two.
Swami
Okay.
Paramatmananda, and it was completely full.
Of course.
But all the camps were complete, which was wonderful for the ashram. And then it was really very moving because when I was there in 2011, they did Bandara
Mm-hmm.
Once while I was there.
Mhm.
And Bandara, you probably all know, but that's when all of the sadhus come and they're fed at the ashram. And that was very moving. They did it every day.
Really?
Bandara.
Every day?
Every
Bhandara?
day.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Swami Tattvavidananda would go around and serve all of the sadhus. It was, yeah. So, it was great.
Wonderful. How fortunate that was for
Yes.
you to be there.
Yeah.
That's
It
so-
answered a lot of questions for me
Uh-huh.
about, understanding the difference between the relative and the absolute. And, because, sometimes the commentary is from the relative
Yes.
perspective, and then
Yes.
the commentary is then from the absolute, and I used to get those confused. But I was able to have a meeting with Swami Paramatmananda, and so that, but just in the whole course of it, it became clear to me.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, so it was great.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you. So just reminding you that Swami Paramatmananda, not Paramarthananda, but Swami Paramatmananda will be here. And we will have a class next Saturday, but the following then after that will be Swami Paramatmananda. So if you haven't already. And I think Chola was saying that a couple of bhikshas are still available. So if you're interested, please talk to Chola. And if there are no other questions, then we will just see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.